I am Gayima, a podcast curating dialogue with the intention to solidify connections between African diasporans and Africans on the continent. All are welcome to listen and be filled with deeper understanding of our narratives. Born and raised on the south side of Chicago to parents, one being a Greek immigrant, two being born in the Midwest, that tie and commonality, I believe, influenced and set the tone for Eliki and I to become fast friends. We met in New York City and probably 2010, and we've been friends ever since. In 2017, when I wanted to launch my blog about all of the creative people that I knew, she was the first that I interviewed. Eliki is one of the most honest people that I've ever met. She's an inspiration to many of her fans as a singer and songwriter, as well as to her friends and family. And I wanted her to bless you with her positivity, especially during these unprecedented times. She shares with us how she successfully battled COVID-19 and how she is pivoting her creativity through this pandemic. Let's get into part one of my conversation with Eliki.
No, please don't let me cut you off. What you were saying was so interesting.
Oh my God, I miss you so much.
It's lit. Happy hour hugs through the inner space. You would fly.
You're so cute.
You do, always, though. I'm talking to a fashionista right here.
Girl, I'm
Gotta
over
keep up with
here
you.
like chilling. You all, look at you, dressed up.
No, you hang up. No, you.
Oh my God, no. Oh
Real
my
love.
gosh. What are you drinking?
So, I know that this is a happy hour affair.
Yes.
But I'm not drinking alcohol as of now. But this is pomegranate juice.
Sweetie, welcome to vitamin infused water.
Cheers
I'm
to
not drinking today. Cheers. Absolutely. Cheers. Wait. Okay, hold on one second. It didn't kick me out.
Great.
Are you people pregnant or something? You see that's my cousin. She's shaky.
Hey, cuzzo. No, just eating food during quarantine, like trying to get it right and tight for summer, you know.
Listen. You saw I started the hula hooping.
Yeah. Man, that's inspiring. So, we have a cycle now, like a spin cycle in the apartment. So today, I woke up and I was spinning, but you were inspiring. I've been watching your videos, definitely.
Wait a second. First of all, whatever. Secondly, I need to take it a step back. Let me properly introduce you because I am acting like everybody knows you. Because I believe that they should. So for those of you that are on that do not know who I'm speaking with, this is one of my most favorite people in the world, Eliki. Okay, Eliki. I don't know even when did we meet? 2012. 12 I was going to guess that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, in Chicago or in New York?
At Drone at Koku's show.
Oh my God, you're right. Mm-hmm. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah. So this is before I lived there. For those of you who know me and what is the word? Chronological lifespan of Gayima thus far. I was not living there yet. But Eliki is a singer, songwriter, producer, like, and her genre is like soul music. The girl can sing. Like, she can sing. She can't sing, she can sing. Period. Like, she's so dope. And a lot of people in New York actually know her because she has become like kind of like a staple of New York City. If you're on the train, the A train in particular, chances are you will see Eliki doing a live performance. And I have literally ran into her. I have footage, like I'm probably going to post it this week, of when I've gotten on the train and I'm just headed uptown or whatever. And then my girl is over here singing to like strangers. And I have to tell this story. So I got on the train. This is this past summer, and I was headed to Harlem for happy hour. And I'm sitting there minding my business, being antisocial, typical New York shit. And then Eliki gets on, but she doesn't see me at first. Like, she was probably like, you know, you guys kind of go in and out of different train cars or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she had gotten on. I'm already on the train car, and she is setting up and just goes into her thing and is just doing her thing. And she's got her amplifier. It has all her information on it. Her microphone. And I'm like, oh, and I whip my phone out like a fan. I'm like, yo, I finally get to see her like doing this shit. And I think the proper term is called busking, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she gets her microphone and she's starting to do it, and she's spanning the crowd. Like, she makes eye contact with everybody, and she sees me. She's like, yo, I'm like, yo, ignore me, do your thing. So she starts singing, and I'm sitting in between these two guys. I don't know them from Adam, vice versa. And they're like, oh shit, she's actually good. Like, they're talking to each other. They have no idea that I know you. So they're talking to each other. I think they were like waiting to be like, yo, she's trash. And then you just killed it. So then afterwards, then you come up to me and they looking at me like, oh, you know her? And I'm like, yeah, I know everybody. Hello. More so like, oh my God. Because I hadn't seen you like that summer yet. We had been trying to link up, and we hadn't yet had the opportunity to. So I was like, what a blessing.
And when I see you, from my perspective, when I see someone I know, just the rigmarole of getting ready for a day of singing on a train in New York City. And at that time, I was still living in New Jersey. So that's like my 15-minute walk to get prepped. You know, there's no quarantine, so maybe working out before I go, you know, and then getting to the train. And then, you know, there's just so much that goes into when I play, especially alone. I think I was alone that day.
Yeah, you were.
And when I see someone that's a light in my life personally, such as yourself, it elevates me. And it just reminds me, like, why I do this. And it's like, I see you, you know, I see you. And those moments, you know, enlighten me as well in my day.
Well,
I love hearing that though about those guys. I love it.
No, they were taken. Yeah. They were absolutely taken. And it's, you know, because it's one thing, like, when you know your friend is dope, like, you know, a lot of you guys, especially in New York, when I'm around you, I'm around a lot of musicians and what. So like, I know already. But when I see people become fans, it's amazing to watch, because it's like, wow, they're actually getting to see what I already am used to. So yeah, they were like, oh shit, like, she actually good. Oh, I didn't even know. Like, well, go ahead and put the money in do what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, so I you know, it's a blessing to actually, like, not only know you from like, oh, she's dope, she's talented, but to know like you as a person. You're so one of the things that I definitely, you know, I've been thinking about it over the past several weeks. You know, I started this happy hour. I don't know, I think this is probably the 5th one. Somebody keep me honest. But I know that one of the reasons, the biggest reason, is just about staying connected. This is a very, interesting time. It's unprecedented. I don't think even grandparents have been through something like this, right? So a lot of people aren't really sure what to do with themselves. And, they're really starting to just kind of get into a rhythm. Some people are really thriving at this particular time. But I know that you're always like a light of inspiration for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And for those, you and I haven't talked about it yet, but Koku did tell me that you actually had COVID.
Yeah.
So I really wanted you to share, as a creative who, you're impacted directly by this because your stream of income is gigging, live performances, busking, everything that's in that creative space. And of course, in the New York City, New Jersey area, that's literally at a standstill with we don't know at all when that's going to resume and how that's going to look, right? And then, so now you're at home, you're quarantined, and then you get COVID. But look at you, you look amazing.
Thank you. I'm so happy to talk to you, and I've been kind of hush hush, and I've been more about okay, I've had it, but for me the journey kind of happened like this. I was traveling in February. Went to Chicago. The person I'm seeing, their birthday's in February, so and he's in aviation, so we were traveling. Okay. And I went to Chicago, saw my mother, went to Greektown, then went to Miami. Was literally on a boat with some of his friends, going down the water, and then went to Puerto Rico.
Y'all was out here.
Took 5 planes, right? So took 5 planes. Came back. The man sitting next to me was from Europe. And I'm not paying attention to any of this, right? Because I'm like, oh, Corona, okay, cool, yeah, swine flu. When I was in high school, I remember all these different things happening. And I'm like, well, I got my flu shot back in October, so I'm good, whatever this is. So I'm not really paying attention. And when I was in Puerto Rico, I was living my best life. I was drinking rum. I went jet skiing. I jumped in the water. I saw a manatee. I was drinking more than I should, and hence the pomegranate today. Yeah, and I was just kicking it, And so when I came back, I had a gig. Shout outs to the Edge in Harlem. Please support small business owners. I grew up in a restaurant family in Greektown in Chicago, so I know how much small businesses rely on their regular clientele. So shout outs to the Edge in Harlem. I performed for Music Wednesdays, and that was March 5th. I even joked too. I was like, hey, thanks for coming out during this, Corona virus.
Right.
See that you all got
we were all still out. We were all still out because we were out that week too. I didn't leave until the following week. So we were still attending events and everything.
Fashion Week. Yeah, you were here. I was at a Fashion Week event, and then I felt run down. I started getting run down in Puerto Rico just from the shenanigans of travel, right? Okay, I'm not paying attention. I'm eating what I shouldn't. I'm definitely drinking more than I do excessively just because I can, and I've never had rum in Puerto Rico. I want to try every single place's rum I can, And then I do my gig. I'm already feeling run down. I'm singing on the train the week of March 5th, and then like a ton of bricks, I wake up and I cannot breathe. Breathe. And unbeknownst to me, now when I reflect, when I was in Puerto Rico that week before, I was biking, but my body, I woke up the next day and I felt like I got hit by a train. And it was a crazy experience. And I'm like, oh, it must just be I biked all day and I'm doing a lot to my body. Then I started having stomach issues. To be kind of graphic, I was feeling ill, I started getting run down and having stomach issues that one would have if, maybe they're traveling, deli belly, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm like, okay, I'm not putting much mind to it because, I'm like, I'll get back. My immune system, I get sick rarely, right? Took the flu shot. And once I got back to New York, I'm hearing about the corona and I'm like, wow, this is like serious, you know? And then I woke up and I couldn't breathe.
Mm.
And I'm like 2 years ago here in New York, I don't know if you recall, but there was like a poor air quality alert that went out, kind of like the Amber Alerts to the phones. And I remember it was
Mm.
the middle of summer, it was really hot, and I had a similar thing. I woke up and I could not breathe. And
Mm.
I remember going through that process. The only thing that saved me was my then roommate was shooting a music video up in New Paltz, and he took me with him, and we went up to the mountains. And I think that because I got above and to like clean water and to the mountains, that I was able
Mhm.
to overcome whatever it was that I'd been going through. But I remember coming back, and like a week later, this older woman that used to live in my building, I ran into her. Her name is Big Judy. And she's like, oh my God, Eliki, like I couldn't breathe last week and it was horrible. And these were and I'm like, me too, Big Judy. Like I had the same exact symptoms.
Is her
And
name
we were
really Big
standing.
Judy?
Yeah, she's beautiful. She's a beautiful older woman. She's like in West Harlem, like her mother had a lot to do with the Riverside Park being part of the community. It used to be
I
like a
want to
trash
meet
dump.
her.
She's beautiful. You will. I'll make that happen. And she used to be involved in like jazz and acting. She's still an
Mhm.
actress, older woman, in her probably in her 70s now. But she was like, I had the same symptoms, and we started talking about conspiracy. Now this is 2 years ago, and I'm like, I know they're spraying things in the air, and
Yeah.
and she reminded me about the alert. She's like, yeah, I got like this poor air quality alert on my phone, and I was like, yeah, me too. And then I'm just like tying it all together, and that's when I was like, and like I have to do everything I can to guard my immunity because
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
with the pathogens in the train. Like I see these little machines, and sometimes they do testing on MTA too. And I spend a majority of my time underground. I never touch the pole. When I stand, people see me. I have my amp, I have my mic. I do collect money. So then, you know, there's only so much I can do with like contamination. But I'm very on it when it comes to washing my hands and such. But
Yeah.
now we fast forward to now, and I think back to 2 summers ago, and then I'm hearing all these different things coming from the news outlets, and I'm like, well, you know, were they testing us? Were they 2 years ago? I had the same symptoms. Was this just like the beginning? Did it really start in China? Like, I woke up and I could not breathe.
Mm.
That was the first day. Um, And I'm like, okay, I don't want to like freak out. I have a tendency that when I do get sick, I might try to self-diagnose things for
Mhm.
something that I think it might be, and then it's not. And then I'm like, all right, I'm just going to see how this goes. Then I get to a point where I begin coughing beyond the ability to, like, I felt like I was going to crack a rib. I got so sore. And I do like a singing test. I'm like, well, can I sing? And I began trying to sing, and I'm like, I can't even sing without coughing. And it hurt to even
Uh-huh.
attempt to sing. And then it got to a point where the person I'm seeing, they're involved, like I said, in aviation. So they spend a majority of their time at LaGuardia. We were in and out of airports. And then now the news is kicking in by like March, I'd say 14th is when I started having the extreme symptoms of everything. And I feel like everything caught up to me, maybe playing on the train, collecting money. Maybe I
Mm.
wasn't so cautious. Maybe I rubbed my face when I collected money and somebody
So
already
now
was
you're
sick.
thinking about everything, like
Yeah.
every
And
single thing.
yes. And then I'm like, okay, well, now I have to do something because, like, I can't. This is like a couple days of me not being able to breathe. I woke up and I had strep throat as a child. I don't know if you ever had that. Did you ever have it?
I've had like not strep, but I know from friends, close friends, that it's extremely painful. You can't even swallow.
Yeah.
Like,
The next day after not being able to breathe, I woke up and then I felt what seemed to be like strep throat,
okay.
swelling of the tongue, inability to swallow. And then I had issues with breathing through my nostrils and through my esophagus. Like I couldn't take air in and I couldn't take air. Like it's one thing like when I get super sick, if I can't breathe through my nose, I'm like, okay, I'll just breathe through my mouth. It's
Hmm.
another thing when I can't breathe through my mouth and my nose. Then I
Right,
started having anxiety. And
right.
so that next day we went to New York Presbyterian. So check this out. Get to New York Presbyterian, already
Hmm.
Corona. I'm nervous because I can't breathe. So
Then I go sit down. There's a bunch of people in the same condition wearing the masks and the gloves. Now we're at March 16th. This is kind of early on, I would say, like the week where we're told we're about to be on quarantine. The person I'm seeing is with me. Then we go back into the ER, and people are just, coughing. First though, they had to take our vitals. They had our vitals taken out in the lobby area. They had like a little machine set up. They had our vitals and everything, our fever. All of that was taken out front. So they're screening you to see if they're going to put you in ER.
Really?
Then you go to ER. Yeah. Because some people just needed doctor's notes and are already, like, I guess, thinking like, oh, I'll just get a doctor's note, and they're not really sick. So they were screening people to see if they actually had fever, to see if they had the symptoms with the breathing. They listened to your lungs, I guess, out in the lobby. Then you go in the back. Then when you're in the back, you see like the extreme. You see people that already have like oxygen. They're trying to breathe. You see people coughing, and then I'm freaking out because now they're like, if you touch people, I'm like, then what if I don't have corona? And like, now I might have corona because I'm here. And like,
to get it just because I came. Right.
Right. So I get to a point where I see the doctor, and I'm like, listen, this is what happened. I was traveling, the person I'm seeing, they are in aviation. I'm around a lot of people that are transient. I took 5 planes. I can't breathe. I have had every single symptom. What can you do for me? I can't, I literally go to sleep. I can't even sleep, like, cause I can't breathe. And, she's like, listen, I could offer you a chest x-ray. I can't test you at this time. And I'm like, so what are you telling me? Like, I don't understand. She's like, well, the most I could do is give you a chest x-ray. And I was like, a chest x-ray? And she's like,
how can they give you a chest x-ray, but they can't test you?
Right. And she's like, and she literally said to me, she was a young doctor. She's like, listen, I know it's messed up. And she's like, I probably have corona. You probably have corona. And even if you tested for it and I test you and it's positive, I would suggest to you that I send you home, because if I put you on a ventilator, if you stay here, like, it's better for you to breathe on your own and go back home and fight it. Okay. So this is the first time, like, just denied, straight up denied. The person I'm seeing is also denied of getting the actual test. The whole process of actually getting to that point of testing came from someone who had access to it. I don't want to get that person, in trouble, but this was early on. They work in the healthcare system, and then just being able to have access to that, and then being tested positive, knowing that that is exactly what I have, didn't come from going to the hospital. Like, the healthcare providers, like, I felt, I left the hospital feeling defeated. I left the hospital like, okay, my dad was an old Greek man. If my dad were alive right now, he'd be 88 years old. He always told me to eat raw garlic when I was sick. He would feed me bone broth from like lamb that he would cook. And I just took it back to every single little thing. Vicks Vapor Rub, taking Epsom salt baths, eating garlic, honey, ginger tea twice daily, eating the garlic, eating it. And then every single day, it was exhausting. And I see why people were dying. I can see why elderly people are dying, because doing this, like, when you're sick, like a normal cold, maybe you do this for like a day. That's the worst of it. It's like a day of that, right? Emergency, like doing the Vicks Vapor, taking an Epsom salt bath, doing all of those things. But when I was put into this position, I'm like, having that anxiety, feeling this suffocation, like asphyxiation, as I like to call it, because that's what it felt like, of literally not having access to my nasal passage, to breathing. I was like, okay, this is serious. Like, I had some moments where I'm like, I don't want to die like this. Like, I straight up just do not want to die like this. Like, please don't let me die like this, And I did everything within my power, sweating it out, drinking the tea, like every single day, just garlic, cloves and cloves of garlic, ginger, doing that for like 7 days straight, till I got to a point that I could breathe. Yeah. Not really being able to sleep, not really being able to move, moving from the bed to the tub, taking like maybe three baths a day of Epsom. Now I had it earlier, I would say, in the schedule of like us being socially distant and everything. But like, when that was all going down, I understood the necessity for that, because this knocked me out, and I'm, you know, on the train with my amp, walking, singing, being social with people. And I'm like, well, if I got this, you know, I understand the necessity for people to separate. Like, I can't go see my grandmother and mother in Chicago. I've been going every month for the last 2 years to visit them.
Yeah.
For, you know, and I'm like, well, that has to stop. That like, my grandmother gets this, it's a wrap. There's no way that if I was struggling with this, that someone like her is going to survive it, you know? So, so I got that aspect of it. And then came the time where I'm like, well, you know, just all the emotions, all the thoughts that we're probably all having. Like, where did this come from? How did this happen? Are they testing us? Like, this feels like a scam. Then I got the bill from Presbyterian for not even getting tested for like $1,600. And I'm like, what is this for? Like, you know, I'm fortunate that, like, you know, I have insurance right now, but like, I'm like, why is this bill so high? They didn't even test me, and they're out, you know, and I felt some kind of way. I was like, yo, like, that could have possibly been a death sentence, not for me, but for someone else that was in the ER that day. Like, just the excruciating sound of people coughing in the ER. I felt like I was in a movie. Like, I was looking around at people, all ages, elderly, young, you know, immigrants, children, everybody. And we're all in there, like, looking at each other, trying, you know, people like trying not to get too close.
Because it's like you can't even be compassionate the way that you normally would be, because you're like, do you have something that is about to potentially kill me?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, yeah, I'm sorry. I just realized that people are typing under here. I haven't even been looking at it, but yeah, they sent me a bill. Yep, they sent me a bill for $1,500 to basically tell me they can't test me and tell me, yes, I have all the symptoms, listen to my lungs and say, yes, they're filled with fluid. You know, and I'm just kind of like, well, what was that all about? Like, it felt like a scam. It felt like I was literally being scammed, and I felt hurt. And I'm not saying that, like, I don't support people who are in the medical field, but in my expertise, I don't always necessarily applaud every single doctor in a hospital, because, like, I feel as though in my experience, impoverished people, elderly people, that's a place where you go to die. It's like a death sentence, in my opinion. But I still respect people, because I know that there are a lot of people out there doing good. It's just like anything. There's good people, there's bad people. There's good doctors, there's bad doctors. There's good healthcare people, there's bad. And I mean, you know, I do give credit to the people that were in the ER at Presbyterian, because, you know, it was a lot of young people, it was a lot of running back and forth. It was a lot of people trying to handle more serious situations, meaning, like, you know, there were also simultaneously people who, like, might have gotten shot, you know, running down those people.
Because it's like the regular ER activity didn't stop just because COVID arrived, right?
Yeah.
Damn.
So you know,
how long do you think, like, when you reflect, how long do you really feel like you were, like, impacted, where, you know, you hadn't yet reached that point where your body had turned now for the better? Do you think that was like 7 days solid of just pushing through, a little shorter, a little longer?
No, much longer. It was like the whole month. It was like March through Greek Easter. I'd say, like, just 2 weeks ago, feeling better. Maybe a week and a half ago, like, actually being able, because I would still have spurts. I started feeling better, so I go outside. I started feeling better, so I would take a walk. It might be too cold. I'd come back, and then I'd be, like, out for the count. I'd feel like someone punched me, like, not being able to breathe again, not being able to sing. I finally, in the last week, have been able to sing again, like, and just even without coughing, because chest congestion, like, knocks me out in that way. But that's like my test is like, okay, can I sing today without coughing? Like, am I able to breathe deeply? And you know, things that help me, that I would say helped me most. They say that heat kills it, so I started taking the hot baths with Epsom. My grandfather, when I was young, had heart surgery, and they gave him a heart pillow, and they told him he had to breathe deeply, otherwise he could get pneumonia. And they said, even if it hurts, breathe as deeply as you can and hold your breath for 10 seconds. So even through, like, the worst of it, I remember that from when I was a kid in Chicago. So I would just inhale, and at some point, like, I was clogged, so I would just inhale, hold my breath for like 10 seconds, let it out, and I would just do that repetitively because I felt like that would open up like my bronchial tube somehow. I don't know. I'm not a
No,
doctor.
listen, what you're
Yeah.
saying, like, I think is so key. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, anybody who is on, I know it's between your friends, my friends, whether they know you or not. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
all of us are like, thank God, you know,
Yeah.
because they would have had to pick me off the floor, and I don't know how they would have been able to get in here
Yeah.
because we quarantined, and if it would have been something worse than that, because that would have just been devastating. You
Yeah.
understand? So I'm so thankful for your health and your recovery.
Thank you.
Um, the breathing aspect. So one of my girls that's on here, I think I saw her join, Christina. She is hosting breathing. It's like, I don't even know, Christina, if you can put it in the comments exactly what it's called, but she's basically like teaching us how to breathe intentionally.
Yeah.
So I think of it as like a form of meditation. So Christina, keep me honest, but every like so far for the past few weeks, it's been like Wednesday afternoons, and it's just like 20 minutes of different techniques of breathing that we've been doing. And it's one of those things where it's like, damn, like, are people aware of how important it is to incorporate intentional breathing into your daily regimen? There's so much going on Instagram now, the IG lives. There's so much information that's floating around about COVID, what's true, what's not true, the in-betweens, the conspiracies, and all of that. But one thing that I want people to make sure that they focus on is talking with people who have battled COVID successfully, because they're not talking about how to get through it at all on the news cycle. Like, it's not being discussed. If it is, I don't know about it. I don't sit and watch the news, but my mom does. And she has yet to be like, there was a segment today about how to battle and win COVID. Like, that conversation has yet to occur. So it's like we have to share that information with each other. Like, we absolutely have to. I'm going to get notes from you afterwards so that I can put it in our recap, because I just think it's so important. But like the ginger situation, it's low key like default because of being Sierra Leonean. Like, that's like a part of like life. So we are always consuming it. But with this happening, it's become like a daily regimen of hot ginger water, just because, like, as a preventative. Like, this is like orange, lemon, and ginger mixed in water, hot water that I allowed to cool off. And oh yeah, my cousin, she's actually part Greek. I feel like I told you long time ago that I have a cousin.
Yeah, you did.
That's her.
Yeah, you did.
Black
Oh, hey.
Greek. Yes.
What's your cousin's name? Hey,
Her
cousin.
her last name is Yanni.
Of course,
Like,
that means Johnny. Yeah, cool.
yeah,
Okay.
she's like legit Greek and African. Yes.
That's beautiful. Wow. Okay. But
Yes.
you know, I just wanna shout out anybody who comes from like any sort of indigenous or root culture. Like, my dad was a farmer. And I know even with you, like, even being from Africa, like, roots,
Yeah.
thinking of roots and natural healing. Like, I'm not a doctor, right? But my dad moved to America with something that kept him young until he died. And he was older. He was older when he was in his 50s. So he was in his 60s when he died, right? He'd be in his 80s if he were alive. But that simple ability to sweat out a cold, literally, like, make yourself hot. Garlic is a natural antibiotic. That's why eating raw garlic. And you know what I learned throughout all this? Eating garlic raw burns your mouth like eating something like wasabi. It burns. So that's doing something to kill bacteria, viral infection. Ginger too. Ginger burns when it goes down your throat. You're eating
Ginger in this country is actually, there's something that's it's not even as potent. When I had ginger when I was in Sierra Leone a few years back, like, I caught myself kind of itchy, throaty, whatever, and I was like, yeah, make me some ginger water. And I took a sip, and when I tell you, I almost choked. Like
Yeah.
it is like chewing on pepper there compared to the ginger here. I was shocked. So yeah, imagine if we didn't have like dumbed down food, like if everything was just as raw here as it is there.
One thing I'll say, with all of this craziness, like some of the positives, right, to take away.
Yeah.
I would say that the ginger and the garlic now, like garlic went from, it's gonna sound crazy. I don't know if America was doing this on purpose, but a lot of the garlic was coming from China. Like all of a sudden the garlic in my local supermarket was from Spain or California. Like I'm talking like the little bodega shops that normally don't carry that grade of garlic. Like all of a sudden, because people in my neighborhood, you know, I used to live like on the Dominican side of West Harlem. Now I'm in Central Harlem. There's a lot of like African from like Mali, from Cameroon, from Sierra Leone. I said it wrong, I'm sorry. But buying up the garlic, buying up the ginger, so the stores can't keep it. There's almost like a ration for garlic and ginger and aloe and all of that. And I love seeing that. So now when I get it, it's fresh too. Like I'm just like, yeah, we all need to be eating these healthy products in abundance so that we can get it imported right away and get the good stuff. Like I would say that I've tried some garlic in the last week from like the place that you never expect, like the little like deli bodega spot that just happens to sell garlic. Now it's selling the garlic that will burn your tongue. And it's because it's so fresh and it's coming from.
And they're probably getting it from like their connect. Of course, they're trying to keep their money in their network. And that's like, you're actually benefiting because you're getting like the real shit.
Yeah. And so that's, and it's out there and I'm just like, man, but like we're ignoring it. Normally we're eating fast food. Like I think it's great. Like some of the positives, it showed me like, I think of myself as someone who self-cares. That's a lot.
No, because you're always doing like some sort of like raw detox and all that. I'll be like, yeah, one day I'll be like a likey. Not today though.
yeah, you're funny. But like, yeah, twice a year, you know, and I started following Sebi while he was still alive, like before he died, and his wife Ma'a, who owns Fig Tree in Brooklyn, who I encourage everyone to support, and some good stores like Nicholas Brooklyn, Fig Tree in Brooklyn.
Yeah, on Fulton.
You know, yeah. So, you know, but I thought that I was doing these things. No, something like quarantine, I think is good in a way for society. If we look at the positives, right? You get to be with your family. You get to cook for yourself again. You get to drink water. You get to focus on things that maybe you weren't doing. Maybe make the bed for yourself. Maybe, you know, like for me, you know, like
time.
Yeah. Why am I being lazy? Let me like work out. Like, well, let me stop eating so good right now, you know, like, cause then I healed and I'm like, now I have an appetite. Let me eat, you know, but it's like, let me cook something different. Let me call my mom and grandma. Let me, you know, reach out to you. Let me talk to Koku. Let me hit up people I haven't been talking to. Let me really see how they are. Like, and, you know, really understand my makeup. Okay, I can't sing right now. Let me do 30 days of poetry because it's National Poetry Month. Like, you know, and it's not just me. These are the things that were making me look at the positive of what's happening with this whole corona situation, right? But I can see people from afar and I'm like, oh, they're doing it. Oh, they're doing it. Oh, this is making us all think about what we're doing. What direction are we going as a society? What are we doing with our lives?
Intention.
You know? Yeah. And also too, like, you know, I think that there's a different sort of consciousness with Corona than there was with 9/11. Like I remember when 9/11 happened, I was a young person and I remember getting to that point of being able to vote. And people would stop me on the street, like, this is the Patriot Act. You don't want to get on a plane and like not, you know, have your ID and do certain things. Like I noticed that was a way of people taking away our rights. And I feel like this time with Corona, people are like, I don't want you to necessarily take away my rights. I don't want an enforced vaccine. I don't want, you know, I understand like distancing so I don't get sick, but I don't necessarily want my rights taken away because this is happening. There's also a different elevation of people
paying attention and waking the fuck up. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that. I actually saw an article several hours ago. Oh, it's okay, Chris. So this is my friend Christina, who has been hosting basically like breathing and meditation sessions. So yeah, so Christina, if you could put in the comments like exactly what the technique is like, because I don't want to like botch it up, but we were talking about just how important it is with trying to recover from COVID. One of the things that Eliki was doing was like intentionally breathing, doing different breathing techniques. What is something that we can be doing like on a regular basis? Aside from joining your lives each week, which I know you're coming up with new dates, but we gotta know. I gotta know, because now that we have the time, and that's the other thing. So first, I saw this article where tomorrow, Amazon, Walmart, Target, Whole Foods, and maybe some other workers that I'm not thinking of plan to go and do like a strike for their benefits. Because I think tomorrow is already like International Workers Day, something like that. And what they're really upset about is the lack of health care, with them being essential workers, that they are, they feel like their health is an afterthought by these big companies. So, okay, so so Khadija put boycotting for PPE and hazard pay. Yes. So they're not getting enough PPE. You know, they're not, it's just, they're tired, which, why wouldn't you be? And I had this conversation earlier in the week when, or last week, because last Thursday I was talking to one of my cousins on the live who lives in Atlanta about the whole thing of Georgia reopening. And are they ready? Does he think that, you know, what's the climate there, so on and so forth. And afterwards, you know, we were kind of reflecting, and I was like, yo, if I was a restaurant worker, I absolutely would not go back to work until they changed damn near everything. Clearly, this has shown you that tips plus your little basic salary, it's just not enough, right?
No.
And then on top of it, like, they're getting, you know, pushed with all that so-called like small business association monies. They're getting that instead of actual small businesses. These Ruth Chris and some of these other major restaurant corporations, they're getting these monies that should actually be going to small businesses, but they're just going to rush and open back up. What are you doing for your workers?
Yeah.
I have heard no dialogue. So I'm like, if I was a restaurant worker, I'd be damned. I'm not coming back until you do something different. And I believe, like, if they all were unified in that, there would be a force of change that would have to occur. So hopefully what we see tomorrow with all of these union workers, et cetera, protesting, like, something comes of it. Because I know we were just talking earlier about an order coming in for me. If Amazon isn't delivering right now, nothing is happening, because right now, Amazon, the grocery stores, gas stations, they're literally it. They are our essentials. You're not getting anything if Amazon is not working. I know I'm not. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not getting nothing, because I order off of Amazon at least once every other week. So I don't know, like, something's got to change. Something has to change.
I think that you bring up a very powerful point, and it deals with our humanity and our value. Not only as a society, but individually, the value that we bring. Essential workers, yes, the people who are still, you know, working, risking, going through what I went through, right? Like what all millions of people all over the world are going through, which is horrific.
Right.
Not some people not surviving, and they're working through it, you know. I went to Walmart, like, once I was getting better, you know, to shop, and I'm like, this place has been open? You mean this place has been open the whole time? And the social distancing, people aren't following it to par.
I don't see Lysol. I need a worker to be like just going through the aisles every now and then, just spraying some Lysol. I would prefer for them to be burning some sage and Palo Santo sticks. Like, yes. But
another thing I did, by the way, was burn sage and inhaled it because it kills bacteria. Digressing.
That is no, it's not a digression. That is definitely like my morning after. Like I even in my sewing room, which is away from everybody else in the house. Like I constantly am burning sage and my Palo Santo stick here in my room. Like it's just, but we were doing that. It's weird because it's like we were doing that before. We just weren't doing it as aggressively and as consistently, right? So now it's become like a daily thing as opposed to kind of an afterthought. But these grocery stores, you know, they're like, you can only go to the grocery stores. But if everybody is going to the grocery store because they've got to, and let's say half of those people have it, your chances have increased significantly to be exposed to it. I don't see any sort of prevention activity that's in play at the majority of these grocery stores that we're going into. I also don't see majority of people wearing masks. It's the minority, you know. And then, you know, of course, shout out to the sliding doors, but there are grocery stores like, I know our local Family Dollar, you got to open the door to go inside. Your girl, I have gloves for days, but I see a lot of people that don't. So it's like now things that you would never think about are at the forefront of your mind. And you're looking at strangers. I had to tell somebody at the grocery store, like, you need to step back because you are too close to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, damn, I kind of feel like an asshole, but I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
Because let me tell you something too. Also, I told this to Coco and I forgot about this. I was going to the gym still and I was going to the sauna when I started feeling like run down before I knew exactly what I had. This woman turned around and she sneezed on me without covering her mouth. And when I tell you I didn't have to say anything because a woman behind me said something immediately,
oh, what a smack!
Yeah, I was just like, what did I say to her? I said something, but it was just
How
very
did you not fight her?
No, because I was just very calm, but I was just like, and at this point I was wearing gloves because I just wanted to be respectful just to like come into the gym and stuff, like, you know, because I was feeling run down, but I was like, maybe it's from traveling, right? But when she sneezed on me, I was like, I forget what I told her. I said just one thing because I didn't have to say anything. But with that being said, I hope, you know, now, you know, thinking of society as a whole, that this helps us be mindful, right?
Yeah.
But we weren't paying attention to those things, taking a little bit more time to know that what I do to my body affects someone else. How I touch my body affects my fellow human being, right? And going back to the essential workers, right? I remember having this conversation dating people who were corporate because, you know, I've been singing on the train steady now since 2011. And time to time, I would pick up a gig here and there, but they were all creative and I wouldn't stay more than a couple months at a time, right? But I remember having a debate with someone I was dating recently, and they were like, you know, well, what happens, you know, you're singing on the train, like, you know, there's more to life than that. I'm like, yeah, you're working for a corporation and you're disposable to them. You know, what happens if you get laid off at a major layoff? Or, you know, it's just ironic that this pandemic happened because what they were putting him through to prove that he was sick, because they didn't want to. This is before CARE Act was passed or any of the unemployment pandemic stuff. They were ready to like let him go.
Yeah.
And I think about how many people who actually fell ill, who might have children, who have dependents, who, you know, need someone, were that, you know, disposable to another corporation that was just like, we don't need you because we have this person who will work sick and will show up and will be there because they need it more than you.
And you know, I used, you know, I was a part of that life.
I know.
That super corporate life. And, you know, I'm blessed because before I left corporate, like I was already working like IT. So I could work from home, and I definitely worked from home more than I was in the office. And I can remember like every December, I would really just be like, all right, I'll see y'all in like February. For real, for real. And they would be like, oh, Gayima. I'm like, no, I'm serious. So my boss at the time had really like questioned me on it. And I was like, listen, let's just keep it 100. Most of the people in here don't really work. They come in, and so I like broke down the routine of what I see from the coffee breaks to the stopping by somebody's desk. And so I said, I get more work done when I'm in my home than when I come into the office. Me coming into the office is like social hour. And then the worst is when somebody comes into my queue, unwelcome, because I didn't ask you to come by. Right. It's not even like it's beef, but I could be in the middle of something and I'm in a flow and now I have to stop because you want to be social. But when you come into my queue and you start coughing, that's where we have a problem. I said, and you guys will be offended when I start kicking people out my queue. So it's best for me to stay home so I don't get sick, because you guys seem to have something to prove and I don't have it to prove, because at the end of the day, you're who I report to and I get my work done.
Yeah.
And he couldn't argue with me. But I was one of the few on the team that was never sick. But it was because I never allowed them to like come into my space when winter started coming, because they would be sick, but they just felt like they had to prove something. So they would show up even if they were sick. And that culture has been adopted of trying to like up your peer and prove that you're the best worker bee, if you will. Meanwhile, you're compromising your own health. You're compromising your peers. All for what? And now everybody is working from home. So everything that they had been saying, like, you got to prove this, you got to prove that, now we're all forced to work from home. So it's very interesting because the world is literally shifted.
I Am Gayima is a podcast produced in Brooklyn, New York by Song Model Management. A special thanks to Vicky Cassis for producing the intro, Vibes, for the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, or wherever you get your podcast fix. Thanks for listening.